Manchester City have just been beaten by Bodo Glimt in the Champions League. That comes off the back of being absolutely dominated by a struggling Manchester United side. And it just feels very ominous in Manchester right now for the blue side. I mean, they're just nothing close to the consistent force of power that we've come accustomed to. And you look around and you're just like, what is the issue? I mean, things aren't all bad for City. I mean, they're looking good to progress to the League Cup final. They're still going to be at least in the qualifiers to get into the last 16 of the Champions League. They're still the closest challengers to Arsenal in the Premier League, but they're just so far off what they used to be. And it's just hard to see what is wrong with them right now. Is it just a question of maybe Pep just running his course in Manchester, or is it just a question of the quality with the team? I mean, when you watch City, you're kind of like they've got a bit of a creativity problem. But then you look at the stats, and like in the Premier League, they're the only team that have three players in the top 10 in terms of chances per created per game. They've created the third most chances as a team in the Premier League this season. They've scored the most goals in the Premier League this season. But when you watch them and they're struggling, it just looks like they're not creating enough for Erling Haaland. They're not getting enough production from their wide players, and they're just a lot more vulnerable in defensive positions when out of possession compared to where they used to be. And it's just very similar to what Manchester United went through after winning the league title in the 02-03 season. A lot of the players of that great era of domination for Manchester United were getting a little bit older. There wasn't really anyone in the team that was the best player in their position anymore, except maybe you're thinking maybe like Rio Ferdinand, like the likes of Giggs and Scholes were still good, but Keane was kind of on his last legs at that stage, and it took them a few years. They went out and bought smart, obviously the way they bought Cristiano Ronaldo, they bought Wayne Rooney, they found a partner for Rio Ferdinand. They found that long term solution left back. They finally replaced Peter Schmeichel, and even though they won titles after Schmeichel, they never really replaced him until they got Van der Sar during the 05-06 season. But that took a while. They had to rebuild, and they had to wait for both Rooney and Ronaldo to really hit their stride as superstars in the league to get back into being the best team in England, and they were able to do that. And you look at the City team now and you're just thinking, are they able to do this? Is Pep going to be able to last long enough to get this team back to being at the top? Because you're looking around and you're thinking, man, they're still signing a lot of players. I mean, it looks like they're buying everyone that can be. They seem to be the only team really doing business in the January transfer window. They've signed Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace. They've signed Anton Semenyo from Bournemouth, two of the brightest players outside the big six in the Premier League. Yet you're still there and you're just looking around and thinking, how big of a difference are these guys going to make? Can they produce to the same level that they did at the lesser clubs, and are they capable of being Manchester City players? We still don't know that, and we're still waiting to find out. But City kind of needs these guys to hit, and Pep Guardiola needs these guys to hit so he can close out this chapter with Manchester City. He is still obviously their greatest ever manager. He is still maybe the greatest manager we've ever seen, but the competitive drive within him, the type of guy that he is, the type of manager he is, he'll want to go out on a high. He won't want to go out with a whimper at Manchester City. That's not how he likes to do things. And you think they really need like Shirky. He's one that he's showing flashes. He's kind of not really a Pep guy, but I think you could make arguments for the likes of like a Riyad Mahrez and Raheem Sterling. They also weren't really Pep guys, but they developed into some of Pep's most trustworthy assets. But the biggest issue that I think is facing Guardiola right now with this City team is that he no longer knows his best team. Obviously, at this very moment, really struggling with their defensive injuries. Guardiola is out. Ruben Diaz is out. John Stones is out. And they're like three like crucial members of that back line, and you look at that team that playing against Manchester United on Saturday and played against Bodo Glimt tonight. Like that is a really bang average back line that you expect to have trouble against really anyone that they're playing against. You don't really have any real high expectations for them whatsoever. So that's a big issue right now. But then you look in their midfield, and you knew back in the day when the really big games came around, you knew that they're going to have some whatever formation it was to get all these guys in, but it was going to be Rodri, Gundogan, De Bruyne, Silva, Mahrez, Holland, and that was like whatever way they were going to construct the formation to fit all those guys. Those guys were all going to play, and they were the best team for Guardiola, and that's why they won pretty much at all the biggest moments for what, like a 4 or 5 year period there under Guardiola. And now it's just not the same, and that's partly due to injuries, but also partly just due to players just not really being good enough. And some of the players that they've signed have hit, some of them have not hit, and some of them the jury is still out. I think, like I talked about this before the season, like the production from their wide players just has not been good enough at all. None of them have really found any sort of consistency. And just to get back on Shirky, he's the one who's shown the most flair, who's shown the most talent. He's obviously got the second most assists in the Premier League so far this year. He's scoring some goals. He's had his impact, but he's still a little bit unnecessarily flashy at times, like trying little flicks and moves in the wrong positions, and being a bit slow to react when he loses the ball and little things like that. And that's obviously annoyed Pep. We've seen some noticeable arguments between the two on the field after games and little things like that, because Pep is obviously frustrated because he believes in the talent that this player has, but he obviously is looking to mold it into a more productive player. But he's still very young. He's the one I think that could really emerge as like one of the replacements, I guess, for your Kevin De Bruyne's or your Ilkay Gundogan's or your Riyad Mahrez's, the guys who were consistently stepping up with assists and goals and performances in the biggest games for Manchester City. But outside of Haaland, like Haaland has got 20 goals in the league this year. I think he's pushing 30 in all competitions already. Haaland has been immense, but they're just not getting the production from elsewhere. They've scored 45 goals in the league this year, most in the league, but 32 of those have come from just 3 players. That's 71% of their goals have been scored by 3 players. They're just not finding consistent production from enough players, and that was like the beauty of Manchester City. I feel like they consistently had 4, 5, 6 players scoring at least 8, 9 goals a year in the Premier League alone, and they always had 1 or 2 that were up in the high teens or into the 20s, and that that's like what you picture all great teams doing, this consistent production from all around the field, and they just no longer have that. Semenyo and Cherki, can they play in the same team? That's going to be hugely important moving forward for this City team, because I think we've seen the impact Semenyo's already had. He can easily take the place of a Doku, or he's definitely already over Savinho, who again has struggled this year. But can he really contribute the same way off the left without the freedom that he had? Like, he used to kind of drift from the left to the right, just kind of all across the forward line of Bournemouth. Will he be allowed to do that at City? That remains to be seen. Will Shirky develop into that consistent threat that can thrive under Pep Guardiola? That remains to be seen. And then you look at like a Marmouche, and like obviously he had a great impact when he first came in because Haaland was injured and he was filling that role as the number 9. Since then, he's had little to no impact on the team at all. Like, obviously Pep doesn't really believe that he can fill in that like a left wing position. But you're looking around it and you're just it feels like it still just comes back to Rodri for me. I think we have to look at like his performance today, and that was just like that felt like the football leaving him, to quote one of the most famous sayings in the media world over the last couple of years. Watching him, like, obviously he just got he was walked past for the first goal that Bodo Glimt got. Obviously a great finish, but like Rodri just looked completely out of place on the field when that player just glided by him. And then, of course, he picks up 2 yellow cards in the space of a minute, both for dragbacks to protect his backline. When in the past, he would have been in the right position to make a tackle or make an interception to just get that job done. Like we saw it last year. We're so much more vulnerable defensively without Rodri there, because he just did such an amazing job for that City team in protecting that backline and just controlling everything for that City team. I think it's gone so underrated, and it really needs to be looked at, just what a player he was. And again, I'm just sign of why he was so deserving of the Ballon d'Or the year that he won it, because he was such an impactful player. The protection he provided to the backline, the control he added to that midfield. He was just always there to make an interception, to make a tackle before the team even got, before the opposing team even got to face up against the backline. Rodri was already there was already there to snuff out attacks. He was just such an important player for this team, and obviously had that terrible injury last year, missed the entire campaign outside of I think three or four games that he played at the start of the year, and just has not been able to get anywhere close to his former self so far this year. He's only made 15 appearances in a possible 34 games that City have played so far this year, and just looks a shadow of himself. And that's the real issue that I think is facing City. He was so important to this team, and now it's just making the likes of like a Bernardo Silva. He looks like a much worse player without Rodri alongside him, and every part of the City team just looks worse and more consistent without that Rodri there. Rodri is still a member of this team. He is still fit and firing and hoping to get back to his best, but until he does, I'm just not sure if this City team can really compete at the highest level like we have seen them be doing. It's not all doom and gloom. This is not the end. I'm not calling for Pep's head or anything crazy like that, but it's going to be really interesting to see if he's willing to continue on and push on, and he can find a way to, I guess, complete this rebuild of his Manchester City squad and find a way to win one more league title. He's still got another year on his contract, so maybe he only has the rest of this season and next season to do it, but can he find a way to win at least one, if not more, of major trophies before he calls his time at Manchester City? That will be a true testament of the greatness of Pep Guardiola, and I'm all here and I'm ready to see it, because if he can't do it, I'm certainly going to be the type of guy who will maybe be willing to criticise him a little bit for not finding a way to regroup this Manchester City squad into a winner again, despite having effectively unlimited funds at his disposal. But hey, we'll see what happens. What do you guys think about Manchester City? Is Rodri's inconsistency the biggest problem? Do they need better attackers? Is it all on Erling Haaland? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time, guys.